legacy that this man Nipsey Hussle left is something that we can't let be forgotten. It's something that he put the work in enough for it not to be forgotten. You talk about so many angles of attack in systemic oppression. You talk about activism. You talk about leadership. You talk about community building. You talking about speaking up for a culture which is suppressed. I'm talking about inner city communities, a culture suppressed in resources, in voice. You're talking about being an emblem for that culture. Hip-hop took a major loss yesterday in Nipsey Hussle, but legends and legacies never die. Legacies live forever. And if this person, Nipsey Hussle, made an impact to you, in my humble opinion, I think it is your civic duty to keep that legacy alive, because this is someone who impacted people and affected people in a way that is unimaginable. A lot of people are grieving, a lot of people are hurt because of that impact in which he had way beyond hip-hop. Before I quote any bar, I speak of the legacy in which this man left before us. And I just took a couple notes because there's so many things that he did for the community, the inner city community, the black community. A lot of the things for me, it all stemmed from his root of unification, community building. He never glorified gangbanging. He always said in his interviews, this is nothing I glorify, this is something I come up in. So my music conveys a message that is a reality. It's a reality out here. It's a war zone outside. It's really beefs based on proximity that in which we might be cool if it wasn't like this. But we were born into this shit. This is a struggle. This is an economic struggle. This is a systemic struggle. This is a race struggle, racism. We're pushed at the bottom. These are all things Nipsey's pushed, and I have a couple examples that to me would exemplify his greatness, his legacy. The first one is the Crenshaw crew necks. He gave an emblem to where he's from. He gave a voice to where he's from. It's almost like a flag representation. When the Crenshaw crew necks came out, that LA area, it was sold up as far as wearing that. They was in multiple colors, and it gave people a sense of pride and hope in those inner city communities, in those disenfranchised communities. So to just give that alone, to put a symbol on your radius, to put a symbol on a block that can't speak for themselves, everyone, that's big in itself. And that's just the beginning. You talk about investments. He always talked about investing. I seen an interview where he said cars and jewelry, as soon as you get it, it depreciates the value. Whereas you invest in a storefront like he had, multiple storefronts, and you invest in a community, the community gets back from it. What do you have? You have people in the community working. You have jobs you've created. You have something that can last essentially forever. Like I said, the body of Nipsey is gone, but the legacy is left behind with these storefronts. And that gives a message to people within our community about investing, about being business savvy, just learning different tricks to the game. This is something that Nipsey brought, and that's just the beginning. I'm talking about black unity. He said in one of his songs, we need a black mafia. And that's something that had me thinking forever, because you look at all the other cultures and they essentially have a black mob. They essentially have a mob within their ethnicity. There's an Asian mafia, there's a Mexican mafia, there's Italian mafia, there's mafias everywhere except within the black one. So the divide and conquer, something he always preached, he always talked about divide and conquer. It's a divide and conquer. When Game and Meek was beefing, it's like divide and conquer right here. We need to be unified. When asked about red and blue, he always talked this divide and conquer. We have a common enemy, and it's not each other. Our enemy is systemic oppression. That's what he constantly attacked since his origins, since his beginning of coming. He was a different breed, man. He was a gem. Independency. Nipsey was put hustle in the house. All these things were funded on his own dime. No corporate backing. No corporate backing. All his initiative on his own. So that showed a level of independency as a black person. If you don't want your art to be compromised, if you want to put things out, you have YouTube, you have avenues, you have a way to pull it out. The last name Hustle wasn't given for no reason. This man moved differently. This man moved specially. This man moved in a way that's influential to me and many people in our society. This is a cultural gem. So his independency showed me that you don't need to sign a deal. You don't need to get fucked by an artist. You don't need to work for somebody that doesn't look like you. Great lesson that Nipsey taught me. Another lesson. His Proud to Pay movement. You can do another precedent set. I've never seen anybody make this initiative. Proud to Pay. I'm charging $100 for a gem because it's not just an album. It's a body of work that represents my block. I'm giving special features. He had limited edition physical copies. Some people got to the concerts. So this business savvy mentality that he had also correlated to black excellence and black economic advantage. This is giving leverage to black people economically and to us mentally, showing us we can do it without their dime. We can do it without them. His legacy will live forever. Always outspoken in his interviews, always talked about capitalism, always talked about white supremacy, always talked about being behind enemy lines because he grew up in a structure where it was too apparent. Cops looked at him not as an ally. They were never there to protect and serve. So this is somebody who conveyed a message that's often suppressed. A lot of these rappers ain't finna talk the shit that Nipsey Hussle talked because it's dangerous. You seen Malcolm, you seen Martin, you seen Garvey, you seen Huey, you seen many figures before him talk this talk and get X'd out. That's why it's a lot of people with the thoughts that it may have been that today, but that's another thing beside the point. I'll talk about that later. This is paying homage to his legacy. Never glorified the street life. In most of his interviews, he always talked about how this is something that we have to get out of. This is something we were brought up in. It was out of our hands. Our family's family, this is generational. Generational self-hate. He said in a quote, he said, when you look to do your stuff, as Nipsey said, if you know his lingo, when you looking to do your stuff and you trying to find an enemy, you essentially looking for somebody that looks like you. You see a square with a backpack or somebody that doesn't look like you, you're not finna get him. You finna get somebody that fit the script. And that just, for me, exemplified a form of self-hate that he was talking about within the community. So Nipsey was an intellectual. He was someone who dropped gems. He was someone of great wisdom. And as far as his contributions, again, he built a STEM center within his community in South Central Los Angeles. Somewhere it's not the art of science, education like that is not accessible to many kids. He was building this. Another form of community building. So to lose him, you have to understand it's way beyond hip hop. Dr. Sebi documentary was coming out to exploit the pharmaceutical industry, to exploit our government that gives us drugs constantly that don't work as much as holistic practice, or they don't give us holistic alternatives that Dr. Sebi gave us. And we know Dr. Sebi passed, coincidentally, at the same time other holistic doctors passed. And this is another message Nipsey was trying to convey. So you talk about activism on a different form. He's putting it in practice. He's giving you the ideals. He exemplifies activism. He's from the struggle. He grew up with nothing. He's from the bottom. Legends can't die. The body's gone, but this is a legend, and he will not die. He will not die. His legend will not die. Some quotes that I have, I said we need a black mafia, as he said. That was one that stuck with me forever because the unity in the black community is scarce. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he talked about that in one of his interviews, to where if you don't have your basic necessities met, it's hard to actualize who you are. It's hard to reach that level of consciousness to really ascend. You worried about food. You worried about shelter. You can't ascend with that common thought. And that's something the black community has had since the origins of transatlantic slave trade and European colonization. We haven't had the ability to actualize and be our full consciousness, because we worried about how to survive. Talked about capitalism a lot. Always attack the system. Man, this person is a legend that cannot die, and I feel it's up to us people to keep this legacy alive. What did Nipsey do for you? Music. He was a great musician in my opinion. His hooks was off the chain. I ain't nothing like you fucking rap niggas, and I really feel the same. This was a special, rare breed, an anomaly, someone we're gonna have to celebrate, or they gonna celebrate somebody who depreciated the culture. He put the culture on another pedestal, another mind state, a black power mind state, a unification mind state, and not an anti-anything mind state, a unification mind state, period, with the black power. So don't take that into a different context. My favorite tape of his is Bullets Ain't Got No Names too. You know, Line It Up, the song with Game, Hustle in the House, man, rolling with my window up, all the shit that it just really felt like it conveyed where a person lived, and it was so real and it was so authentic. My thoughts on his passing, this is the last thing I'm gonna say. Some of you think it's gang banging related, some of you think it's government related. Well, let's just say this is what we all can agree on. They both could have happened, and both of them are products of a system in which we're oppressed in. This was his angle, to get at the system of oppression. So what can we do to stop gang violence? And what can we do to stop this system from killing our leaders and killing our people? So take both of them into account. It don't matter who's right or wrong. They both corrupt. Gang violence and the system fucking us over. It's your boy Dame. Keep Nipsey Hussle alive. I want to know your thoughts, your comments. The legacy will live forever. He left it out there. He left a lot of gems out there for us. It's up for us to find it. It's your boy Dame, man. Just playing my part. Nipsey Hussle. Rest in power. It's love. Peace. You made a great impression on a lot of people. A lot of people, man. Your legacy will not be forgotten. Damn.